What's the deal, my people? You know it is Don Tony Teflon. Field Issues guy is a little late. He will be joining us a little bit later. Let me say what up to all my friends, all my familia in the building, rocking with me right now. Thank y'all for sticking with me. I know I've been gone for a while. I know I told you I've had a tragedy in my family, and my brother passed away, and a lot of you sent me a lot of well wishes and support, and I just wanted to say thank you. I truly appreciate it. It really meant the world to me in my life, at the stage that I'm in right now. I really don't have a lot of people to talk to, and I really don't have a lot of support on that end, especially where I live at. I'm basically almost here by myself. So just hearing from y'all, it really does mean a lot to me. So when you send those things, maybe you think, oh, he just blows that stuff up. That is not the case. It means a lot. It's gotten me through a lot of bad nights that we had due to that. My brother Eric passing away. So rest in peace to my brother Eric. And say what up to all of y'all people in the chat real quick. Let me say hi to RC. What up to you? We also have Veronica W is in the building, rock with us. TJ is in the building. William Waddy is in here. Green Eyed Bandits in here. Sonic Your Boy is in here. Dwayne S is in the building. Rosa Jones is in here. Minerva is in here. Rose Flambert is in here. We have a lot of people in here. Now, at the time, we didn't have a chance to talk about From, but we know that the last scene in From was the most iconic scene. And that is this character, the man in the yellow suit. I know people never say the man in yellow because no one wants to say yellow suit, but it's the man in the yellow suit. That's what he's described as. But what do we actually know about the man in the yellow suit? Why did he come out here and murk our boy Jim? I'm saying our boy Jim. Y'all know how I really feel about Jim, but I'm going to say our boy Jim. I'm going to say our boy Jim. Murk our boy Jim just like that. So let's find out a little bit about the man in yellow. This actor, and that brings us to our guest of the evening. This actor has been working as an actor, playwright, and voice artist for over 40 years. He has spent 13 seasons as a company member at the Shore Festival in Niagara-on-the-Lake, Ontario, and other 3 seasons at Stratford Festival. He has worked in theaters across Canada and the U.S. and has played in film, TV, and radio. With his writing partner, Marsha Cass, he has written 6 plays to date, the first 5 which have been published by Concord Entertainment. Collectively, they have over 300 productions in 16 countries around the world and has been translated into 10 languages. Their latest is a comedy thriller entitled Deadline, which it premiered at the Human Race Theater in Dayton, Ohio in the fall of 2022. He has also penned 2 novels of his own, the comedy thriller The Poor Player and its sequel, The Shaming of the True. He and Marsha are now adapting their 4th play into comedy, Jack of Diamonds, into a screenplay. With all that, we also know him as the one and only Man in Yellow, but his real name is Doug Hughes. And why didn't it just put you up there? But I'll do it. Doug, thank you for joining us. Truly appreciate it.
My pleasure being here, Tony.
Your list of, you've been in the business for a very long time. What made you want to be in this business from the beginning?
Oh God, I honestly can't tell you when I decided I wanted to be a performer. I usually joke that it was pretty much there from the womb, because I honestly don't know, but all I can tell you is that the first time I had an opportunity to be in a play, I just assumed I was going to be in it.
Mm-hmm.
I was just telling this story the other day. When I was a kid, my parents had a lot of Alan Sherman records, and I used to go and listen to these things. Like, I knew them all inside out and backwards. And when I was in the 3rd grade, I remember going up to my principal one day and suggesting that maybe we could have an assembly in the gym one day where I could get up and treat the school to a collection of Alan Sherman tunes. And he handled it beautifully. He says, okay, Doug, that's a great idea. I tell you what, you get the band together and make all the arrangements. And once you've got it all sewn up, you come and talk to me and we'll do it. I was like, okay, great. which of course never happened. But I mean, as far back as that, I just apparently assumed this is what I was going to do with my life.
And it was plays mostly. You didn't want to be an TV film actor. You really wanted to go into plays.
I wouldn't say that I didn't want to be, but when I was in theater school, I mean, we dabbled a little bit with on-camera performance, but the vast majority of our classes dealt with live theater. And I was told from a very early stage in my career that I was never going to be leading man material. So I thought, okay, well, that makes me a character actor. And, you know, they don't write a lot of roles for 20-year-old character actors in TV and film. So I just gravitated in towards theater and did that for the most part for most of my career, basically until COVID hit. I mean, there was the odd bit of, you know, episodics and little parts in films and stuff like that. But the vast majority of my time has been in live theater.
And what is it about the live theater that drew you to it, the actual performance of live theater?
I don't know. I guess just because, as I said, at school, that was our primary focus. And in high school before that, the only opportunity I ever got to perform was in plays. And so that's really all I knew in terms of acting was doing that. There was a period in my 20s where suddenly I started landing a bunch of TV commercials, which was never part of the plan, but it just kind of happened. So there was a brief period there where I was doing more of that than anything, which was a very strange time, really, because my face was on TV all the time, but nobody knew who I was. They didn't know my name, or, you know, I wasn't a character or anything like that. I was just that guy in the beer commercial. So it was this very strange sort of Twilight Zone version of celebrity where, you know, I got all the annoying parts of it without any of the good stuff, you know, people coming up to me on the street and going, "Hey, you're the guy on TV," you know, crap like that. It's bizarre. But that one brief period accepted, you know, most of the work that was coming my way was theater. And so that's what I did.
Yeah, but what big commercial was it? Molson Triple X?
No, right? This is going back a long time ago. This
Uh-huh.
was like the mid 80s. I did one for Labatt's Blue and Blue Light. I did a series for the provincial lottery, a lottery in Ontario that doesn't exist anymore. All kinds of different stuff.
I like Labatt's Blue. I had some maybe like a month ago. I bought some Labatt's Blue. Yeah, I like that beer. That is a very good beer. So you did a lot of plays, and then what led you to saying, I'm going to start writing some of these myself?
That was all my writing partner, Marcia Cash. Now, I should say that when I went to theater school, the objective was to become an actor. But I thought, well, if that doesn't happen, you know, I might dabble in writing, because I did a lot of creative writing in high school and stuff. And that was kind of a secondary interest. And even as I started my career as an actor, that was always in the back of my mind. I collaborated with a friend on a play that never went anywhere. And anytime I was in a musical, I would always write my own parodies of the songs and stuff like that. And that's how my writing partner found out about me writing. We were both actors when we first met, and we were in a couple of musicals together. And I was rewriting all the songs in the musicals. So fast forward a few years after that, she's living out in Edmonton. Her husband was running a theater company there, and she was performing in a farce that they were doing. And apparently this farce was a really bad piece of writing. And the cast was sitting in the bar one night complaining about what a piece of shit this play was. And somebody piped up and said, well, you know, we've got like 50 years of experience sitting around this table. We could write a better play than this. And somebody else said, yeah, we could. So they ordered another pitcher of beer and they started kicking ideas around. And at this point, Marcia says, I just want to say something. Every time I'm in one of these things, I have to run around in my underwear. If I'm going to write one, the men are going to have to run around in their underwear. And all the women at the table are like, damn straight. So it's like, okay, how do we do that? And they started kicking ideas around. And then she and the stage manager from the show went off and actually started writing this thing. It's a farce about two women that have a lingerie business. It's called Who's Under Where. And I can't take responsibility for the title, by the way. But anyway, they got about 30 pages into their first draft. And then Marcia and her husband moved back to Toronto. So the two of them parted company with the understanding that if either one of them wanted to take the ball and run with it, they could. The stage manager put it down. She never looked at it again. And Marcia was trying to work on it on her own, but she wasn't making any headway. So one night the two of us were out having coffee and she said to me, I've got this play I've been trying to work on. And I was working with somebody else. I really think I need a partner. Would you be interested? And I said, well, let me see what you got. So I read through the first 30 pages or whatever it was, and I said, yeah, I think there's something here. So the beginning of the next year, 1991, we sat down, we started writing kind of part-time around my job selling shoes. And about 6 months later, we had a first draft, and then we got together in the fall and wrote a second draft. And beginning of the next year, we wrote the third draft, and it got picked up and produced. And we sent it off to Samuel French, and they published it. And then it was like, well, that went well. Let's do that again. And so that sort of started this marriage that's been going on for 34 years now.
That is beautiful. I have a friend. His name is Dustin Warburton, and he's also a novelist, children's book author and stuff, international children's book author, I think he would like me to say. And he always wants to work on stuff with me. He's always like, Tony, let's work on something. We need to but it always comes down to like when we start working, it's like someone's doing more work than the other person. You know, how do you juggle that aspect of it? Because that's why it never really goes anywhere with me and my friend Dustin. How do you juggle like whose responsibility is it for this and how like I'm not feeling that, and how's no one's ego get hurt? Like I think we should take this out and all that.
That's an excellent question. And I think that we had a couple of things in our favor that we didn't even realize at the time were benefits. But number one was, as I said, we were both actors when we started writing together. And so, you know, in rehearsal, acting is a fundamentally collaborative thing. You collaborate with other people, you know, and so you're all equals in that sense. And so we would work stuff out together. And if we couldn't figure out if it worked or not, we would just get up and do it, you know, perform it for ourselves. And it's like, oh yeah, that's good. Write that down, you know. And in terms of the writing, the way it worked was if we were at her house, she was at the computer doing the writing. If we were at my house, I was at the computer. So there was never any kind of like boss employee relationship. We were always equals, I think. But having said that, you're absolutely right. I mean, you have two very strong egos who are trying to work together. And that kind of relationship takes a lot of care and a lot of effort. And I have to say, it is probably the most intimate, involved relationship I've had in my life, my relationship with her. In fact, we were working together once. We were at my house here, sitting in the other room, sitting at the computer, bickering at each other. And all of a sudden she stopped and she looked at me. She said, you know what? This relationship is exactly like a marriage. And I looked at her and I said, yeah, without any sex. And she said, yeah, like I said, it's exactly like a marriage. But there was actually a lot to it. I mean, it's one of those long-term relationships that requires a great deal of work, a great deal of care. And I think that, you know, I think both of us should probably pat ourselves on the back for having managed to do it for this long, you know, without getting a divorce, as it were. The other thing is that we also have different strengths, I think, as writers. Mars doesn't act anymore. She's a full-time theater director now when she isn't writing herself. And so she tends to look at things more from a director's point of view, you know, more of a conceptual point of view, kind of big picture stuff. Whereas I always approach acting or writing from an actor's point of view, you know, the moment to moment stuff. And so those two different skill sets dovetail together very nicely. I mean, there's some overlap between the two, but yeah, it's just, I think we just kind of lucked out, you know, we were a really good fit as partners and we just sort of found that out the hard way, you know?
Yeah, the universe puts together the people who are meant to be together, you know, and it seems like that it has exactly. So she's over here looking like, this is budget. We ain't going to get this made. If we write this, it's going to be, that's going to cost a lot of money here.
Maybe exactly right.
That is great. All right. You also have, you it seems like you do comedies a lot. All right. Is comedy your favorite form of acting? Since you've written a bunch of comedies, you have a new comedy that's being done right now from one of your novels that you made. Is that your favorite form of acting, comedy?
I have to say, I think it's a really hard question to answer because however I answer it, it's going to be misleading. I would say I'm probably most comfortable with comedy because that's what most of my experience has been. Having said that, I would say that almost without exception, the most rewarding experiences I've had in my career as an actor have been in dramas, sometimes really heavy duty dramas, you know, and I would include From in that, you know.
That is all right. So that being said, I know a lot of people here, they want to talk about From. So let's go into some From. you get casted as the man in yellow. How did that come about?
Okay, I will try and give you the short version.
No, we
I
got time. We got
okay.
time.
I originally auditioned for From before the first series, the first season, and they sent me the sides, and I read them, and I was just astounded at the quality of the writing. I had never seen anything that I'd been asked to audition for that came close to this stuff. And I knew nothing about the series, you know, what the big picture was at all. All I could glean was from what was in the scene. But even that was enough to sort of get a sense of what this world must be like. And I
Mhm.
was just enthralled. And I thought, God, I would kill to do this. So I
Now,
read the one role. I
can
got
I
called
jump in
back.
real quick before you? Do you know what role did you actually audition for?
I would rather not get into that if that's okay. Because it was
It
two different ones.
was
I
two
will
of them.
I will say this: the two people who are playing those roles are absolutely perfectly cast, and I can't imagine anybody else doing them. But having said that, they called me back for the first one, and then shortly after that, they called and said, "Okay, we're going to go another direction with that one. We want you to read this other character." Okay, so I read for that one. They called me back for that, and I didn't get that one either. So I thought, okay, well, that's that. And this was like 3.5 years ago, so I'd
Mhm.
forgot about it. And until very recently, I didn't have any streaming services at all. So I had never seen From. As curious as I was about it, I had never had an opportunity to see it. And then this spring, my agent called me one day and she said, I've got an availability check for you here for some TV thing. Are you free for the next month? And I said, yeah, I don't have anything going on. So fine. About 3 weeks go by. I don't hear anything. And I assume, okay, well, they must have booked it by now, whoever. And I got offered a day's work on something else, and I called my agent to check to see if it would be okay because you know weren't through the whole month yet. And she said, no, you're still being considered for this other thing. And initially, they had just asked for my audition reel, but then they had a change of heart and they decided they were actually going to have to do auditions. So she called me on a Friday afternoon and she said, "All right, they're going to do a Zoom audition with you tomorrow." And I think that's when I found out it was for From, and I freaked. I thought, oh my God, I got another chance at this thing. I can't mess this up, you know? So the next afternoon, I had a brief Zoom audition with Jack Bender, and we did 2 takes, and that was it. I was in and out of there in like 5 minutes. And a couple hours later, my agent called and she said, okay, you're on hold. And normally when you get told you're on hold, it's like the kiss of death. It means, yeah, they're still interested in you and a couple of other guys. And most of the time when I've been in that situation, the job always goes to one of the other guys. In fact, that had happened to me just about a week before this. And so I said, okay, yeah, whatever, you know, put the phone down. About 10:30 that night, she called me back and she said, okay, you're booked. You're flying to Halifax Monday morning. And I was like, pinch me. You know, it was like, just a dream come true. So I madly signed up for Paramount Plus so I could watch some of this damn thing. And I had very little time. I had to pack the next day and, you know, get all set to get out of here and go to Halifax for a few days. So I watched the first episode and the finale of season 1. And then I think it was the next day when I got to Halifax, I managed to watch the first episode of season 2 and the finale of season 2. And that was all I knew of this series when they shot the scene for the finale of season 3. That's
Nice.
all I've seen.
So you're obviously in one scene at the end of the finale. Were you told that this is what you're going to be in? Like when you read for this part, did they give you any guidance about what the character was going to be, what they wanted you to act?
No, not really. I mean, and generally when you do auditions like that, you aren't given anything beforehand. You just basically, I mean, there might be notes in the breakdown giving you a hint of what they're looking for, but basically you're on your own. So you do the first take, and then if they're interested, they'll say, if they're not, they'll say, thank you very much. And if they are, they'll say, try it this way. And you do something slightly different. And, you know, that's how it goes. So I did it once, and Jack asked me to do it again. And the only thing he said was, you know, could you tone the humor down a little bit this time? And I said, yeah, sure, whatever, you know. And I think the phrase he used was a little less snidely whiplash. And I said, yeah, I can do that. Sure, no problem. So we did it again, and boom, that was it. Now, one thing my agent did say to me was the reason they decided not to cast just from audition reels was, she said, that they're kind of apologizing for asking you to come in to read for such a small role, but it's because if there is a 4th season, this is going to be a very significant character in the next season. And I said, there's nothing to apologize for. I audition for stuff like this all the time on, on Zoom, but yeah, whatever. But yeah, that's when I really felt like, okay, now the pressure's on, when I found out this thing was going to have a future.
No, that's great. No, you did an amazing job. I mean, memorable job on this. This the little bit we've seen of you. Fans can't stop talking about you. It's funny that you said you got casted, and you got called to set at the end of shooting this thing, or was it in the middle? Or
no, we were the last thing they shot.
The last thing you shot was that, and you got, because that picture of the man in yellow looks like you that they use in the show. It looks just like you. So that
I know
must have had a key that they wanted you.
And I didn't make that connection. Of course, I didn't get to watch the third season until it was released, and that's when I saw that, and I thought, oh, there's Jack's image, but it didn't occur to me that, oh my God, he must have done it ages ago. So I don't know. I mean, I think it's just the luck of the draw that he happens to look so much like me.
I think it, must have been in this guy back of the head, like, this is the guy I want. And you say Jack is the one who draws those pictures, right?
Not all of them, but he said he does a lot of them. Yeah,
he does a lot of the paintings and stuff. Jack does. That is amazing and stuff. And listen, your role is going to be more significant next season, which everyone knows from seeing it, and obviously it has to be more significant, right? I mean, how is it playing the villain? Do you enjoy being the villain more than, let's say, a hero actor and stuff? Because you are now the villain of the show.
Yeah. And, I've been getting that question a lot. And my pat answer to that is that when you're playing a villain, you can't think of yourself as the villain because, there are lots of people who are perceived of as being villains. They don't see themselves that way, and from their point of view, they're the good guy. And that's kind of, I think, the case with the Man in Yellow. However, when I read this, I mean, I was kind of on my own in terms of how I was going to interpret it. I just assumed, all right, do more or less what you did in the audition. They obviously like that, so go there. Mm. But I wanted to give the character a little depth. So I thought, knowing nothing about him, I know nothing about his history, what they had in mind with this guy. I was just, it was all inference on my part, and I thought, all right, whoever this being is, you don't get to a place like that without being really deeply damaged along the way. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of, for me, that was kind of the root of the character, as far as I could put together in such a short period of time. And then after I got home, no, I think it was just last week, I found this quote from Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley, who wrote Frankenstein. And it really resonated with me. So I'd like to share it with you, if that's okay.
Yes, of course.
She writes, "The story of villains is much more entertaining than the story of heroes, because monsters are not born, they are made. They do not emerge from the void or darkness by themselves, but they are shaped by circumstances, by the wounds of the world around them. They reflect the deepest of human pain, rejection, loneliness, misunderstanding. A hero is defined by his acts of bravery, but a villain is the result of a heart that was once pure and ended up corrupted. The monsters, in their tragedy, show us what could happen to us all if the world turned its back on us."
That is 100% on what I believe this show is about, and what we've seen of the monsters in the show. Tragic mistake that they made that got them in the position that they are in. And I think that is definitely that's a beautiful line. That's a creator who wrote Frankenstein. That was amazing. That was great. But yeah, I think that is exactly what is going on in this show. So it seemed like you were a fan of the show, a fan of Jack Bender. Did you ever have a chance to watch any of his other shows like Lost? Did you know how that show wove around a little bit, so you could figure maybe this is going to be something like that?
I caught several episodes of Lost when it was on, but I came to it kind of late, so I wasn't up to speed from the beginning. So I found it very interesting, but because of the fact that it was so far into the story and I hadn't seen any of the beginning stuff, I think I only watched it maybe a handful of times, but I was very interested in it. Thought it was great. And I found out, of course, that he and John had been involved in that as well. But and yeah, I mean, now that I've seen the whole series, the whole first three seasons anyway of From, there's certainly some connections, you know, in terms of the whole puzzle aspect of the place. The fact that you've got this group of people who are struggling to find out what the hell the rules are, you know, very similar to what was going on in Lost.
Now, as a writer yourself, and I get asked this question all the time, and people say, and my man Phil the Issues guy is here. They say, you know, hey, we can say they took this from Lost, so they're gonna put it in this show. When you write, do you take things from previous shows and put them in new shows? Is that something that they're not talking about them, but you in general? Is that something that you would do? Would you consider that something you would do? Like you would come and you did something already, but use a certain aspect of that into a new show?
No, I don't think so. I mean, for example, our latest play, the one that opened in Ohio, it's called Deadline. And it actually has a certain kind of vague connection with From in a general sort of way. It's a story about two playwrights who find themselves trapped in the world of the murder mystery that they're writing. So you have these two people who are somehow magically transported to this other world where people are being killed and where they're desperately trying to find their way home. So there's a fair amount of overlap in that Venn diagram between the two.
All right, and in that you're still writing the book, and as they're writing the book, these events are unfolding while they're there. In your play, you're saying that they're in the murder mystery that they're while they're writing it, the book that they've written. Are they still actually writing the book while they're in this play?
Well,
or is that giving away too much? I'm sorry.
No. I don't mind talking about it. I mean, you know, and in fact, I would encourage people to read it if they want. It's been published by Broadway Licensing. That actually wasn't in the bio that you read. I think that's slightly out of date. This one, Deadline, was published earlier this year by Broadway Licensing. So if anybody's curious, you can get a copy at broadwaylicensing.com. But no, what happens in the play is they actually get hired to ghostwrite a play that was being written by this very famous mystery writer who has died in a mysterious house fire. This play is supposed to be opening on Broadway in a few weeks, and they desperately need some, and all they managed to salvage from the fire was the first scene, the first 25 pages, and they need someone to finish the rest of it. So they get hired to do this. They have almost no time to do it. They think it's an impossible job, but it's like, hey, you know, it's Broadway. What are we going to do? So they take these 25 pages and they sit down and they start to read them. And in the stage version, you know, they're sitting in their office, but behind them is the majority of the stage. And as they read the set description of this play, which takes place on a yacht, we see the yacht appear behind them. And then as they read the characters, we see the characters appear behind them. And as they start reading out the lines, we see the characters on the yacht mouthing the lines that they're speaking. And eventually the two of them get up and join the action, reading two of the characters themselves. And then when they get to the end of the 25 pages, all the characters on the yacht freeze and they go, okay, well, time to go back to the computer. And they turn around and their office is gone. They're on the yacht. And it's like, how the hell did we get here? And more importantly, how do we get home? And the guy says, well, we kind of read our way into this. I guess we're going to have to write our way out. So they proceed to try and solve the mystery from inside, playing two of the characters in the mystery itself.
Oh, this is amazing. This is in Ohio. Where's this play? Where can we go see this?
Well, it opened and closed 2 years ago. So
2 years ago, you got this thing. It's not on tape, and there's no type of video of this at all.
No, they do archival videos of live theater performances, but they're not allowed to distribute them for contractual reasons.
I would love to see that. I'm gonna have to get the book and just read it and stuff. I'll just bring in my partner, the one, the only Phil the Issues guy. Thank you, Phil, for joining us.
Thank you.
How was your trip in Vegas?
It was very fun. Hi, great to meet you. Great to see you. And I don't want to jump in and interrupt too much. I'll let you guys get back and I'll find an opportunity. But thank you, Tony,
go right ahead,
waiting and having this. And it's great to meet you, Doug. One thing I wanted to ask you about, which is a little sort of off subject, I guess, is I was watching something else that you were doing. You were a hockey player. How far along did you get in your hockey playing? You said you wanted to be a pro hockey player. Were you ever good enough? Did you have a chance? Or
Oh yeah, no, I was. In fact, one of the reasons that I had to give it up was because I was playing sort of. Well, back then it was called all-star level. I don't know what they call it now, but my parents were driving me all over Southern Ontario for the last 2 years that I was playing hockey. And it's a very expensive sport. And, you know, I did not come from a wealthy family. And I was a goalie too. And that's the most expensive position because of all the equipment, you know. And so just before I went into high school, my dad said, you know, I think it's time to hang up the skates. And I was really scared about it interfering with my schoolwork anyway. You know, I had this image of high school being like 9 hours of homework every night, you know. So I didn't put up a fight. I said, yeah, okay. And so that was the end of that dream. So
Were you already acting and writing at the time?
no, God, no, 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 no. Although I have to say, I think I knew at that point that I was going to study acting. Before I went to high school, I had made that decision already. The plan was to, you know, get through high school and then go to university and then be an actor after that.
And have you ever had an opportunity, even just for fun, to play in any games in your adult life? Do you ever put on skates again?
Well, I'll tell you a funny story. In 1992, I shot a film about, it's based on a book called Gross Misconduct. And it's a true story about a guy who used to play for the Toronto Maple Leafs. His name was Brian Spencer. And my writing partner's cousin was playing Brian, and I was playing his twin brother. And Adam Agoyan directed this thing. And we actually had to do some shooting at Maple Leaf Gardens.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I got to go and skate at
that must have been so much fun.
Like a dream come true. But I'm actually a Chicago Blackhawks fan, and I do have a hockey story that I think you guys will get a kick out of. So I'm going to share it with you. I have a friend who's from Chicago, and she comes from a family. They actually have a corporate box in the new arena in Chicago. But in the old days, they just had season tickets in Chicago Stadium. And she grew up going to games there. I, of course, living in Toronto and being a Blackhawks fan, I never got a chance to see a game there. And she and I had this agreement that if the Blackhawks ever made it into the playoffs, we would both go and catch a game in Chicago. Well, they did it in 92, and neither of us could go. I was ironically shooting the hockey movie, so I couldn't go. And she was busy doing something else. And it turned out to be a good thing because they got blown out in 4 games anyway. Well, 2 years later, they announced that they're closing Chicago Stadium. And I'm like, oh my God, I got to go. I've got to see a game. And I left it to very late in the season. I don't know what I was thinking. And in fact, they were playing in the playoffs, and they were playing the Toronto Maple Leafs, ironically enough. And I called up my friend Myra. I said, Myra, is there any chance you can get me a ticket for a game? You know, I'll fly down to catch a game there if I can. She said, yeah, let me call my uncle. And she called me back a while later. And she said, yep, you got a ticket. Go ahead. So I flew down for the 6th game of the series, which turned out to be the very last game played because the Leafs beat them out of the playoffs that night. And I knew that Chicago Stadium had this reputation for being like the loudest stadium in the league, you know, the Madhouse in Madison, as they called it. So I thought, okay, when they play the Canadian anthem, I am going to sing it for all I am worth. So we get up for the national anthems, and I'm standing there in my Hawks jersey, looking for all the world like one of the locals, singing away at the top of my lungs. And I'm thinking to myself, you know, this game's on Hockey Night in Canada because they're playing the Leafs. This would probably make a pretty good image for a Hockey Night in Canada cameraman. Well, little did I know, I get home the next day, there's all these messages on my machine going, what are you doing in Chicago? And how did you pull that off? And I'm like, pull what off? What are you talking about? So I called Danny, the guy who played Brian Spencer in the movie. I said, what the hell's going on? He said, dude, don't you know? I said, no. And his wife gets on the phone and she says, I'll tell you all about it. You know the anthem? Yeah, well, they started with an extreme close-up of the cavern of your open mouth and proceeded to do a slow reverse zoom until you were this little body in the crowd at the end of the anthem. It was like this major art shot. I'm like, are you shitting me?
That's incredible.
I mean, what are the chances of that, you know?
Yeah, that cameraman was playing tricks. Like, he knew what he was doing. He knew what he was doing. He knew what he was doing, going back that slow on that zoom. So I've been to quite a few hockey games, but I remember the first time I went to a hockey game, and I'm from Queens, so all my friends are Rangers fans, Islander fans. So I wanted to go to Rangers game because it's a Madison Square Garden. But I'm gonna tell you, as someone who knows nothing about hockey, and I watched it on TV, and it was always boring to me, but live, it was amazing because I didn't know about people jumping in and jumping out and everything. It's things that they don't show, you know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah. And after that, I love the sport. I was like, this is a great sport. I had no idea. It's like these guys are 200 and something pounds on ice, gliding around like ballerinas, right? This is a hard, difficult task to do. This is not easy. to do on ice all the way they do. So no, I have nothing but respect for them in hockey players and stuff. And listen, when the Rangers won it and Messier game 7 predict we're going to win this, and he won it. Still one of the greatest moments in New York City and in my life, right there. So I truly appreciate that. So you went from hockey, you were a really good player. Went from was it like a dream? Like, all right, I'm giving up this dream, but now I'm going to explore this next act. Was it devastating for you to give up hockey, or did it put you in a slump or something, or was it just
it was, in a sense. I stopped watching it for a couple of years after that. It's just like, okay, that part of my life's over. I'm just going to stay away from that now. But it wasn't, I didn't have the sense that I was giving it up for the other thing. I wanted to do both things. In fact, I had another career objective in mind too. I always wanted to be a vertebrate paleontologist. So I thought, maybe I could do all three, but didn't quite work out that way.
Yeah, that would be interesting. PM Philosophy asked this question. I don't know if it means anything to you, but I'm going to ask the question because she's a great person and a fan of the show, and she's a theorist too. And she says, "Sir, what does the King in Yellow mean to you?"
It means an item on my reading list, is what it means. Yeah, I got a stack of books I need to read now. I've got a lot of prep to do before next season.
There you go. Without a shadow of a doubt. I appreciate that question right there. Phil?
I think some of the questions I might ask you might have already addressed, because as I was pulling up, I just want to touch back in. So that wasn't your voice in season 1, right?
No.
On the phone, that wasn't actually your voice. Okay.
No.
And you did have a knowledge of the show before becoming a member of the cast or auditioning. Were you familiar with the show at all?
Well, I was familiar with it because I had auditioned for it before the first season. And when I found out that I was doing this, I was telling Tony earlier, I was only able to see 4 episodes because I had never seen it before I auditioned for this part. So between getting booked on the Saturday night and standing in front of the cameras on Wednesday morning, I managed to watch 4 episodes, one of which just happened to be the finale of series 1. Which I thank God I just happened to pick that one because I got to see the radio conversation. So that was very handy.
Since a lot of the actors are from the Toronto area or from there, had you worked with anyone on the show before being on the show?
I actually worked with Liz's husband, Cliff Saunders. We spent a year together at Stratford and did a couple of shows together there. And I know Deb Grover, although we've never actually worked together. We've seen each other in shows and stuff. And I also known Tom Payne. Tom Payne was at Shaw for a little while I was working there too. So
there's just a very good vibe with the cast that I've been saying this to other members. You guys have a very theater crew, a theater troupe vibe about it. And it's just, I think you being someone that is so involved in the theater community, it must be really. Do you feel that energy as you come into this cast?
Well, I'm in a strange kind of limbo right now because the only 2 people that were there that I saw.
Oh, you only met 2 of the people. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, apparently Cliff was there that day. He saw me, but I didn't see him. I don't know. He must have seen me when I was going into my trailer or something, but I didn't know he was there. Actually, I would have said hi, but no, I only worked with Hannah and Ian. That was it.
Interesting.
And so there are all these other people, and I see all this stuff online, and they just seem like, thick as thieves. I mean, it just looks like a really tight group, but I still feel like I'm kind of on the outside of it because I haven't had a chance to meet any of them yet.
I mean, that might be a good thing just for character motivation purposes. I know in some shows, like when they shot The Karate Kid, for instance, they didn't let the Cobra Kais hang out with Miyagi and Daniel just to kind of get a tension built up on the set.
That is not going to be happening here. I'm telling you right now. Sorry.
They may be nervous. If they get in the scene with you, they may have already gotten that call from Jack. So,
That's for getting the death call.
I'm a little method. I'm not that method,
How was it now? A lot of things have changed from when you first started in this business to where it is right now. And one thing I think I enjoy about this show, and you had to do it, and I'm figuring a lot of it was practical when you rip Jim's throat out. Right. I'm figuring a lot of it was practical. I know they have to put some CGI work in it. Are you more of a practical effects guy than a CGI guy? Do you rather work with practical effects? Do you think that, yeah, I'm the CGI, special effects, I should say, digital effects. Do you think there's a place for both of them, or would you rather them just mostly do a lot more of the practical effects like it was back in the day?
Well, I mean, the way of the world is such that digital effects are here to stay. And so that's just the reality of the situation. But whenever possible, I greatly prefer doing it practically,
Yeah.
And there were no, I mean, yes, they did a little enhancement of what I did, but I literally, he had a piece of throat that I had to pull off, And so there was like what you see there, a measure of that was actually real. And then they just added a few extra, bits of blood and guts to it.
I think the best. Oh, sorry.
No,
sorry.
Did you have contacts in when you played that on your eyes?
No. If they did anything to my eyes, that was in post. That was,
okay.
Yeah.
It's so interesting with what you're saying about that. I think the best is the mix of the two. I mean, you see with the Wicked movie that just came out, which finally was able to, I feel like, put something, you're talking about videotaping theater or capturing theater. Theater is a tough thing to capture the essence of something on a camera. So to watch a show back. And I don't think movies have always done justice to the feel of some theatrical shows. But I think that combination of using practical effects with digital enhancements probably creates the most interesting thing for an actor to play because you can see the imagination that you can go with things, but also have the physicality of the things to touch as well.
Yeah, I mean, having any measure of physicality makes it so much easier to root the reality of what you're trying to do.
Absolutely.
If it's just a bunch of people dressed in green, it's a much more challenging thing to do.
Have you ever done any acting like that, where you've had to be in a position where you're like what the people dealt with in the Star Wars prequel movies, where they're talking to a tennis ball or something like that? Have you ever dealt with that kind of thing?
I've done some mocap stuff for a couple of video games, and that's a trip.
What games?
I
can look it up. I can actually look it up. Can't remember.
Yeah, I can't remember the title of the first one. I've also done some voiceover work for video games. I did Far Cry 6.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, did a lot of the citizens in Far Cry 6.
Nice. Do you enjoy voiceover work? Is it a different method that you have to go when you're doing voiceover work?
It's funny. I don't make as much of a separation between the different media as I think a lot of actors do. I sort of tend to take the same approach to all of it. And the way I describe it to people, I mean, yeah, there are certain techniques that are useful in front of a camera, but a lot of that stuff kind of takes care of itself in the sense that if you go to see a play in a big theater, you're sitting in a 1,200 seat theater and two people are sitting in a living room talking. Well, they're not going to be talking at the level of volume that they would if they were actually sitting alone in a living room. They got to pitch that stuff up, and there's a certain technique to doing that. You get on camera and shoot that same scene. Well, you're not going to do that because the person is right there, so a lot of those alterations take care of themselves. This blue thing beside me is my little home recording studio, and that's where I do all my voiceover work. And when you're in there, you're in this extremely small, intimate environment. It sort of lends itself to, just you and the microphone anyway. So there's not a lot that I have to do differently from what I would normally do if I were just acting.
Do you read your own audiobooks for your books? Do you do your own audiobooks version of them?
No, I don't actually. I've listened to some of them, but I haven't listened to the whole thing, all of them. Two of them are about Holocaust survivors, so it's a hard listen.
Yeah, but you wouldn't want to do the voice for the audiobook for your own books. You don't want to do that.
Oh, for my own books. Oh, sorry, I misunderstood the question. No, my books haven't been published.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, no, they're I list them on my bio because I'm immensely proud of the fact that I actually wrote the damn things. Getting them published is a whole other process, and no, I'm not a fan of that stuff. And I'm frankly, I don't really care if they get published or not. I'm just really happy with them. I actually thought about doing an audiobook version of them just to give to friends and stuff like that, but that's a very long process, and it just kind of never happened.
I don't know if Tony asked you some of this stuff before, so again, I apologize if I'm asking you the same question, but I assume you didn't get a lot of information about your character before starting the scenes of like history or a moment before, those kind of things. Were those difficult, or did they give you a lot of freedom to create those moments yourself? Did you do it? How did you do research for this role? I guess that's my question. How did you sort of build those moments befores and that foundation character when you didn't necessarily know where he came from necessarily, or did you make up your own sort of thoughts?
Well, here's the thing. That is exactly why I watched as many episodes as I could before we shot it, just to get a sense of, you know, the evolution of the series and the feel of it and all of it. You know, I mean, it was interesting talking about auditioning for the other roles, seeing those scenes in context on TV. Suddenly you sort of go, oh, that's what that is. You know, like you get so much more information when you actually get to see it in context. There was not a lot of context here, so all I could do was just get as much a sense of the series as I possibly could. I mean, the good thing is you have to be an idiot not to understand the scene. It's pretty self-explanatory when you read it. I mean, it's 5 lines, for God's sake, you know? So a lot of it was just get the words right and don't trip over the furniture kind of thing, you know? But no, I mean, I was just basically going on the little bit that Jack had said in our audition in terms of what to do with it. We didn't really talk too much about it on the day either. You know, they just kind of left me to my own devices for the most part.
When we're over and everything, we have another stream. I know y'all in the chat. I think I know the 2 roles he auditioned for. We're not going to talk about it now. He's not going to tell us. He can't tell us that. But I want to know what y'all in the chat think, because I think I know what 2 roles they were. I think I got it pretty down pat that what roles they were. 100%. And I'm sure some of y'all have your opinions of the roles and stuff too. I mean, again, people saying Henry. No, it was season 1. People saying Boyd.
Boyd, yeah.
Boyd? Yeah. That's a hard no.
Oh, that's funny. No, I think Harold was pretty much cemented before they even started filming the drop of the show.
Oh, yes.
Are you familiar with Harold's work and Harold's work? Is this the first time you've seen anything from him going into this show?
Oh, no, I'd seen him before, for sure. You know, I have to say, I am so impressed with the level of the entire cast of this series. It's just, I mean, I just keep telling my friends who aren't familiar with it, this thing fires on all cylinders. I mean, the writing is excellent. The cast is brilliant. The direction is awesome. The art direction is awesome. I mean, every aspect of it, the music, I mean, it just, I can't say a bad thing about it, you know?
And it's just catchy too. It has that sort of, that thing that hooks people into talking about it. And there's just a huge community that has built up around this show, talking about Tony's one of the best at doing it, sort of analyzing and looking at what's going to happen on the series. Have you dived into that a little bit of your, or are you aware of that? Have you
I am now.
Totally.
I wasn't before the finale dropped, but wow, what an education. I have never experienced anything like this. I'm getting inundated with messages on Instagram, which I never used before this program. I'm still a neophyte with Instagram. I don't know what the hell I'm doing on there, but I thought, all right, this thing has really blown up. I'm going to have to like up my game here a little bit. So I finally went on and started establishing a bit of a presence, and it's utterly overwhelming to me. And on YouTube and just the internet in general, I mean, this thing is a worldwide phenomenon. I got a message from a guy the other day saying, he said, you realize all of India is watching you right now? And I'm like, just mind blown, you know?
They're all like, why'd you do that to Jim? Or thank you. Actually, most people are like,
a lot of that stuff. And endless questions from people about, are you Randall? Are you Ethan? Like, I'm going to know. I don't know any more about this guy than anyone who has seen that scene. That's how much I know.
Well, Doug, if you want to know who you're playing off air, I will tell you exactly all about your character, who you're playing, and everything.
Tony has it down. Tony's figured it out.
I prefer to have that conversation with John Griffin. If I can find it.
You tell John to join us.
John can talk with you guys.
He can join us, and I'll let you know. John will be like, "Oh, we gotta get this guy in here. He knows too much."
Either that, or he's just going to sit there going, "No, No, wrong again. I was really happy, though, the day that I was there, that John was present, because I got a chance to go up and tell him, you're my freaking hero. I can't tell you how much I love your writing. And I have to say, because people keep going on about what a great job I did, 90% of that job was done for me before I got in front of the cameras, and a lot of it, the lion's share of it, I would say, is John's responsibility, and Jack's, both of them, really. It felt like such a luxury to have so much of the work done for me before I even got there. It was just a joy to be a part of this series. That's all I can say.
Someone in the live chat says, I love that people are literally asking you if you're Randall and stuff like that.
Yeah, and it's like, come on. I mean, think seriously. Like, they're going to tell me? Jesus.
Yeah, if the main cast don't know, they ain't going to have someone just walks on know anything. Right? Yeah. These people, the main cast haven't known what's going on for 3 years. They ain't going to someone who's coming on, hey, I'm going to tell you all about this stuff. Let me tell you. It's not going to work like that. That's not the way it is.
I guess this is a question you can't answer yet in specifics, obviously, but have you gotten any hints or any sort of story outline points for where your character's going in next season, or anything whatsoever from
No, I haven't heard word one from them, and I probably won't, I don't think, until sometime in the new year at the earliest. But I'm not particularly interested in knowing where it's going. I'm much more interested in knowing where this guy came from. And I would love to sit down with John and pick his brain about that. Just how did you come up with this guy, and where do you see him fitting into all this? And I mean, as much of that as he feels able to answer, that would be very useful information for me from an acting point of view, just to know how he sees this guy. Because I mean, even the choices I was making on the day, the whole time I'm thinking, I hope these guys don't hate this, because I don't know,
But yeah, that's the situation where you just have to trust that they saw something in you, in your audition and your performance and the way you were reading it, that they're seeing 5 steps down the road that you're not quite seeing there in the way that you're playing that.
That's basically what I was hanging on to. Yeah.
And you got the best clothes in the show. I mean, you got the yellow zoot suit.
And I have to tell you about that suit, because the costume people didn't know who was playing this role. They found out, I guess, either very late Saturday night or Sunday morning. So I get this frantic email like, can you send some measurements, And as luck would have it, about a year ago, I got my very first made-to-measure suit. So I said, boy, do I have measurements. I sent them the whole lot. And then when I got there on Monday, I think I had a fitting with them on Monday. It's hard to keep it all straight now because it was so sudden, all of it. But I think I saw them on Monday, and they had already kind of cut the suit, but they hadn't put it together yet. So I had a fitting with them. And it's made of the most gorgeous Irish linen you ever saw in your life. It was this beautiful. And of course, when they put it on me, it was absolutely pristine. It was brand new, And I'm just like, can I buy this when we're done? This is awesome. Yeah, and then no sooner did they finish building it that they took it out and ran a truck over it a few times before I got to wear it. So much for that idea. And the same with the shoes. This gorgeous pair of shoes. And the first thing they did was like beat the shit out of them before they got on the
Like maybe you had a backup plan. You could have took those and said, "Hey, y'all got a backup." Those other ones disappeared.
Yeah. Totally. Can I get the one off the rack in the back? And you're the one of the monsters that doesn't have the pristine clothing. All the other ones of them, like they look like they've put their clothing in the wash every day. So.
Well, I'm in management, and it's a rough life there. So.
Exactly. You get your hands a little bit more dirty in that situation.
Without a shadow of a doubt there. All right, Phil, do you have the phone line?
Yes, I do.
All right, we're gonna he's rocking with us for now. We're gonna let him go in a second, but we're gonna give you the chance to call in and give this man his flowers and just say what up to him. All right, y'all know the phone number for you to call in and stuff. If you just want to, again, he doesn't know anything. Don't ask him crazy stuff that he can't answer, because he's just gonna say, I can't answer.
Are you Ethan and Randall's love child? No. You're not gonna answer that. He's not answering that question, even if it's true.
All right. So this you go give him his flowers and stuff like that and all that good stuff. Give him a call. Give him a call up. And if we don't get a call within the next 5 minutes, I'm sure we're going to get one. But if we don't, then we'll just end this interview. And
the question I'm getting the most often online is, why did you kill Jim? And I got so tired of hearing it that finally the last person that asked it, I just typed back, "Fucker owed me $50 and he wouldn't pay up." And after I did that, they stopped asking. So I guess
that's what you gotta do. You said, "I told his wife to stop digging that hole." Did you try, when you said the voice, did you try to imitate the guy from the radio? Did they play that
to
guy?
the extent that I could, yes. I spent a lot of time listening to that because I wanted to try and match his cadence, because it's clearly somebody else's voice. And I thought, I got to get this as close as I can, because I don't do a lot of impressions. The only impression I can do is Obi-Wan Kenobi. So,
Can you do a little Obi-Wan Kenobi for us?
You want to hear my Obi-Wan? Okay.
Yeah. We have Julie on the line. We'll get Julie.
Okay, we'll do it later.
No, please do it.
No, we're doing Obi-Wan now.
We're doing it now, Doug.
Okay.
No.
Obi-Wan Kenobi. Obi-Wan. Now that's a name I've not heard for a long time. Long time. Oh, he's not dead. Not yet. Well, of course I know him. He's me. There you go. That's my own.
That is amazing. That is amazing. Round of applause for that. That is amazing. That was a really great impression of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Obviously, you're a big Star Wars fan, I take.
Yes.
That Star Wars is science fiction in general, or just Star Wars itself?
Well, I was a big science fiction fan when I was a kid. Dune was one of my favorite books in high school. And I have to say, I loved the last two movies. But when Star Wars came out, when the first one came out, I was in theater school and I was working as a security guard to put myself through school. And the company that I worked for did the security in this building that had a movie theater. And at the time, they only had 2 screens, and both screens were showing Star Wars for like 3 months. So I went to see that movie. I took everybody I knew to see Star Wars. I saw it like about 14 times in the space of 3 months.
Tony, we have Julie B on the line. Julie, or our spam caller, Julie B. What's up, Julie?
Hi, Tony. Hi, Phil. Hi, Doug.
Hi, Julie.
Oh, hi. I just want to tell you, you are obviously a masterclass actor, because you seem like the nicest guy, and yet you played pure evil to absolute perfection in that scene.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. I appreciate that. That's one thing about, I spent 13 years, as I said, at the Shaw Festival, and I was very lucky in the fact that I got to play such a broad range of characters, genres, time periods, accents, you name it. I mean, they threw the book at me, and it was a really great training for this kind of thing, playing characters that aren't necessarily anything like what you are in your everyday life.
Mm-hmm. Well, it shows, because I mean, with such a short scene, you managed to make an unbelievable impression. I mean, let me tell you, I'm a part of the rabid fan base of this show. I have a channel. We do marathon length lives, and we are going to be obsessing over that scene for however long it takes for the show to come back. A year and a half, doesn't matter. That scene is going to be the most replayed, I think, and everyone is just blown away by your performance, by how oh my God, like the sinister nature of it. Your presence on screen was just absolutely amazing. I cannot wait to see what you're going to do in season 4. I hope we get a lot more Man in Yellow.
Well, as far as I understand, I think that's the plan anyway, but I have no specifics on that at the moment. So we'll see. We'll see what the future brings, I guess. But thank you very much for your comments. I really appreciate that.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank you, Julie.
We really appreciate the call, Julie. Jen Hack says, this man is too cute to be evil.
Bless your heart, Jen.
Yeah, listen, you are 100% not this character. I mean, they really saw something in you, especially from all the things you have done and everything else. You have definitely not this character. But at heart. But again, I think that the quote that you gave it is relevant to everything that's going on with these monsters in the show. People are asking what the number is, Phil.
781-990-8509. I think we can probably take one more call. 781-990-85. Oh, and there it is. 347 area code 347. I'll get you on in a second. There's nothing to spoil, so I can just answer the phone. Area code. Oh, they hung up. Sorry. 347. Please call back.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, there's nothing to spoil. They can't.
Yeah, it's during the year. This show is so popular. People would just like call, be like, "Oh, did you hear what happened on the show?" Before anyone else had a chance to watch it. But area code 347, welcome to the show. What's your name and what's your question or comment for Doug?
Hi, this is Rose from Brooklyn. I just wanted to say, hey, Tony, hey, Phil. I just wanted to give Doug his flowers. That his scene was phenomenal. I was in the airport watching it, and I looked like a crazy woman because I was standing up saying, bravo, about time Jim got killed. And I didn't care. I didn't care that I looked like a crazy woman. I was just like, y'all missing out. This is a great freaking show. So I just wanted to say thank you, Doug, for taking out Jim. I wanted him to die all season long.
I've been getting a lot of that lately, so you're welcome.
Hey, you are my new favorite character. I don't care if you're evil. I hope they keep you around for all season, all of next season.
Thank you.
Great call and great. So yeah, as you were saying, you're hearing both of those sides. You're hearing why did you do that to Jim, and you're hearing thank God you got rid of Jim.
Oh yeah. It's pretty much a 50-50 split, I think.
Yeah, Jim's always not the most popular. The actor's great, and just like with anything, like you were saying, like a person playing evil isn't necessarily playing that they're thinking evil or thinking bad. And in Jim's case, he's trying to do good, but that frustrates a lot of people that's watching. Then the actor just does such an amazing job. It sort of creates this visceral reaction of people either loving Jim or hating Jim.
Well, I have to say, my tendency is to leap to his defense because I think, Jim, like everybody else there, is just dealing with the situation to the best of his ability in the best way that he knows how. And yeah, it may rub a lot of them the wrong way, but his motives are certainly pure, so I'm kind of on his side.
There you go. And PM Philosophy.
And then you kill him. You're on this. You're like, I'm on his side.
Yeah. PM Philosophy says, Mr. King in Yellow, I mean Man in Yellow, you have charm and charisma, and we absolutely love you and can't wait to see more on you in the screen in season 4.
Thank you very much. I just, I can't deal with all this. And again, I have to reiterate, I just feel that so much of the success of this scene, I mean, people keep going on about how astounding this scene is. There's a whole lot of people that went to putting this thing together who spent a great deal of time getting to the point where this scene could have the effect that it has. And, I think John Griffin, first and foremost, has to take credit for that. But everybody on the creative side, I mean, of course I looked really eerie. Look at the makeup, look at the costume. I mean, that's a whole lot of work that people did on me that has nothing to do with my ability at all,
Yeah. And
even this, from what we've seen in this show, and this is obviously the theory from Don, but I don't really think it's a theory. I think it's got to be obvious that this is the second time you got to kill Jim. I mean, the second time that you got to kill Jim. I mean, not from you as an actor in the storyline. This has had to be at least the second time you've killed Jim and stuff, because Julie comes back and she says specifically, I think this is the time you have to run, meaning it had already happened. Mm-hmm. So maybe there was different words that you originally said to him when you killed him, because in the first time you killed him, you didn't have to smack Julie away and push her away because she wasn't there. It was just you and Jim. So I know you can't comment or anything like that.
I have no information on that, actually, so I can't tell you.
No, I know, but we know this. We know that this is the second time you killed Jim and stuff, and I can't wait to see them go more into the stuff like that. Do we have anything else? I'm not going to.
I mean, yeah, people ask Doug questions all night, but we do appreciate Doug here. I'm trying to think if there's any other question that keeps getting asked over and over again. We talked about the how tall are you, Doug?
6'1".
6'1". All right, it's just 6'1", and you did push Julie away. Really, that wasn't the real actor, Julie. That was a stunt actor that you pushed away like that, right?
No, that was her.
Oh, that was her. She took the fall. She took the fall.
They had some like cushion stuff that they covered up with leaves and that sort of thing. But no, that was all worked out by the fight director. And that branch that he was wheeling at me there, that thing weighed a ton. It was all foam on the outside, and then of course covered with stuff to make it look like an actual tree branch. But the core of it was like solid iron. It was like swinging something heavier than a baseball bat. And I've had 6 shoulder surgeries. I don't have a lot of upper body strength. So catching that thing, you know, there was a couple of takes where this is me catching it. You know, like it was a challenge, you know.
Yeah, but you caught it and you did the spin and put him against the car. Jimbo, got. I would like to thank you for killing Jim. The actor's fine, but I didn't like the character whatsoever. I don't think he deserves his wife. So I'm glad to see he's gone. And that's what it is. Phil, anything else for Doug Hughes?
Someone else asked in the live chat, and I get a good fun question to go out on. Do you have who's your favorite character? Someone that's watched a few episodes of the show. You mentioned Jim, someone you relate to. Is there anybody else on the show you would say is sort of your favorite character?
Well, I wouldn't say Jim is my favorite. I just felt I had to come to his defense because so many people were shitting on the guy. Yeah. No, my favorite hands down is Victor.
Yeah, perfect.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I just think he's an astounding creation, and I think what Scott does with the role is impeccable.
So
that's
good.
Our boy. That's our boy.
No, and especially what people are saying about you, Doug, about you seem such a nice guy to play evil. Like you listen to Scott. Scott's like hip and cool and chill. He's playing that character. Like it's just so not Scott, you know, and it's amazing how genuine that performance feels as just a child. You know, it's just you can see the everything makes sense there. It's beautiful.
Oh, it's a joy to watch. It really is. I mean, and I feel kind of funny singling him out because the level across the board is so good. I mean, you've got Liz and you've got Harold and you've got, I mean,
David.
I was on a chat last night with Bob Mann, who played Frank, I believe, in season 1. And, you know, I just started rewatching the whole series again. And I was watching those first couple of episodes that he's in. And I thought, God, that's some good work, you know. And most people have forgotten about him by now, you know, but like I sort of feel like I've just been thrust into the big leagues in a way, you know, just because the cast is so solid right across the board.
Awesome.
New Relief. It's a show that's really good and really deserves all the viewership that it gets and the praise that it gets. And I believe this will be the #1 show on television before it's all said and done. And so I'm pretty well versed in these things. I've called a lot of shows that have turned out to go that way. And I'm calling it that this is I think that if it was, and we love MGM, I love MGM, got nothing but love for them. But if it were on HBO or a bigger network than MGM Plus is, it would already been there. Like if it was on the same network that The Walking Dead was in, it would already been there. Because they've already established a fan base for that network that watch it. And MGM is building a fan base up. And I think that's the only reason why I would say that. But if it was already, it would have already been the #1 show on television right now. But y'all will get there. MGM will get there. Again, Doug, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure having you. We're going to end the stream. Me and Phil are just going to chat. We're going to end the stream. Be back on Wednesday. Phil will join me and Elamar. I'm telling him right now he will. And we'll talk about the interview, and we'll talk about everything he said, and we'll talk about all the theories and everything else. Again, thank you for joining us.
Thanks very much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
And everybody, you know, we'll put a link to his Instagram. Go find him, Doug Hughes Instagram. Let's get those Instagram subscribers up. He's very personable, and he does answer back comments and stuff. Let's get him back. Let's get him up there and everything. Everyone give a round of applause to Doug Hughes. If you like the way to do this, please thumbs up to spread this across the realm.